Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Press Row. I'm Callan McClurg. And once again, before tonight's show begins, we'd like to once again take a moment to acknowledge the ongoing tragedy unfolding in Los Angeles County. As we speak once again, devastating wildfires are burning across the region, impacting countless lives and displacing families from their homes. Our sincerest thoughts, prayers, and condolences go out to everyone who's been affected by the ongoing fires. We'd also like to extend our gratitude and appreciation to the brave first responders, firefighters, and volunteers who are risking their lives to protect others in need. Here at C2C, we truly believe in the power of community, and tonight we're asking you to once again consider lending a hand to help those in need. You can show your support tonight for the wildfire relief efforts by donating to the American Red Cross directly. Visit redcross.org/donate or call 1-800-RED-CROSS. That's 1-800-733-2767, or text the words CA Wildfires to 90999, or scan the QR code you'll see in the top right corner of our screen. Every contribution, no matter the size, helps bring relief to those affected, whether through emergency sheltering, meals, or other critical services. Together, we all can make a difference in helping our neighbors rebuild and recover, and for those in need. Thank you again for your patronage. Press Row starts right now. The college football TV ratings for the postseason drop off. What's the lead causes? DirecTV's brand new sports bundle launched early on Tuesday. What does this mean for consumers watching sports as the year prolongs? The Sixers and Flyers reverse course on a downtown arena and choose to stay put at Wells Fargo Center, with a brand new arena set to open up in 2031. Is Kevin Harlan ditching TNT when the year's over for Amazon Prime Video as the NBA's new media deal takes place? The NHL chooses their next spot for outdoor games in the state of Florida, and we'll have our 3 press clippings later in the show. That, folks, and more comes your way right now on Press Row on C2C. This Coast to Coast Entertainment Network program is brought to you by Beside Me Bracelets. Our bracelets are handmade for any occasion. Use the promo code Coast to Coast for 15% off. Visit their website at besideme.com. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry. With 24-hour shopping available, use the code 160920 and show her some love, like she showed us. Reaper Apparel Company, a commitment to live your most authentic way every single day. Visit reaperapparelco.com for more information and a look at all of their apparel offerings. And by Good Day Embroidery, your local source for custom embroidery, screen printing, and more. Log on to gooddayembroidery.com for more information. And once again, everybody, good evening, happy Tuesday, and welcome into another edition of Press Row, our first program for the new year of January 14th, 2025. Callan McClurg back with you folks here and inside the home studios here in San Diego. Wanted to, again, folks, come on here once more again, and as we said at the top of last night's show on Monday on C2C at night, and now even here tonight, once again, folks, about the ongoing fire situation up in Los Angeles County, hoping and praying for the best, though, but it's been very difficult, though, as a born and raised Southern California native, living in San Diego my whole life, though, and having lived through fire season, which is now a year-round thing here, back in 2003 and 2007, you know, family and friends being displaced, losing their homes. the scenes of devastation, having family, having friends up in the greater LA community areas who have been directly impacted by this. A friend of mine who plays women's roller hockey, her and her family lost their home early in the fires. So again, folks, we're doing our best here on Press Row and C2C at Night to, again, help raise awareness and also to help those in need. Again, we have the American Red Cross QR code up in the top right corner of our screen, right above the bulletin board of our topics tonight. So again, you can actually scan that code. It'll take you directly to the American Red Cross website. Or again, you can also do so by following the prompts on the screen on the ticker tape. Again, online, redcross.org/donate. Call 1-800-RED-CROSS, 1-800-733-2767, or text CA Wildfires to 90999. Or again, scan that red QR code in the top right corner of the screen. And again, you can make your contributions to the American Red Cross via those platforms. Again, I just think, though, again, folks, that it's kind of our duty in a way to bring that to you on top of also being here for your entertainment and for keeping updated with what's going on in sports or entertainment. But like I usually say, though, folks, that sometimes the value of life outweighs wins and losses in the sports world and games being played. And certainly just trying to do our best here, and especially with it being so close to home for both myself and James living in Southern California. And as I said, we've had family, we've had friends, neighbors, and loved ones who've either have been directly impacted, they've had to evacuate, they've lost their homes or whatnot. So we're just trying, again, folks, to do our best here to keep those great people in LA County in our thoughts and prayers. But again, folks, with that in mind, though, great show coming up here for you here on Press Row. Again, diving into all the great stuff, though, and the big news of a sports day via sports media and sports business as well. We invite you again to send us your input via the live chat box on Facebook, on YouTube, or via the Callan McClurg Sports Twitch channel. And again, we'll do our absolute best to ensure that your commentary gets read live on the air here this evening. Well, now, folks, move into our first topic here about the college football playoff TV ratings. Not too bad, not too great, right in the middle, I'd say, right here. But so far, through the first couple rounds of the newly formed 12-team college football playoff, the TV ratings for the college football playoff semifinals have dipped and decreased by about 17% in the first year of the new 12-team format as the final four games took place later in January than usual. This year's matchups drew an average crowd of 19.2 million viewers across ESPN's regular broadcast and the multi-platform ESPN Megacast approach, down by 4 million viewers from last year's CFP semifinals that averaged about 23.2 million viewers. Both the Cotton Bowl drew about 20 million viewers, while the Orange Bowl raked in about 17.8 million viewers. The Rose Bowl game usually draws a big rating, had only 27.7 million viewers last year, a larger audience than last season's national title game between Michigan and the University of Washington. This year's game on January 1st is currently the CFP's most watched game so far, with 21.1 million viewers watching Ohio State clobber Oregon in that ball game. Next season, the Fiesta and Peach Bowls will host the semifinal games, making for a clean comparison to this year's games that have been played. You know, again, folks, I will kind of, again, go back to my stance from Monday that I know that I have piled on the 12-team format. I pile on college football and the NFL all the time. But I do think, though, that I probably will still give this new format a pass. Because as I alluded to, though, on Monday night, it'd be very bogus, I think, for the CFP to roll out this new era. That's all we've heard over the course of the college football season. You know, welcome to the new era. Welcome to the new era. You know, 12 teams, a brand new format. You know, winning a title now with a 12-team format is harder than it's ever been for college football. But I know that I said on Monday, maybe from my anti-football perspective of, well, hey, we got a 12-team format, but let's look at the proof in the pudding. Number 1 seed lost, number 2 seed lost, number 3 seed lost, number 4 seed lost, the 5 seed lost. We're at the bottom of the barrel, basically. We're at the 7 and 8 seeds now playing each other in the final game coming up next Monday. But as though I was kind of on that soapbox, I still, though, was in a way being pulled back, though, like in a tug of war, being pulled to the other side. Like, I don't want to pile on right away. Let's actually give this 3 to 4, maybe 5 years. I said 4 on Monday. Let's go 5 years and see what the data does show, though, when it comes to not just TV viewership, but also about the current 12-team field. I still do, folks, believe we're going to be in a college football era of a 16-team field that will probably involve every game, as we've already seen, and probably bonus games, as James alluded to on Monday, that he'd rather see those first 4 games, like the de facto wild card round play-in game that was held on the college campuses. Why not add games in from the current bowl lineup, like the Holiday Bowl, the Sun Bowl, the Vegas Bowl, for example, and, put those games on a rotating scale where it could maybe help both teams get acquainted with the quote-unquote neutral site, the neutral site of the game, as is the Rose Bowl, the Sugar, the Peach, and the Orange Bowl, and whatnot going forth. But why do I believe that the ratings are down, though? I kind of feel like, though, that the new format is just a work in progress. Now, I don't know if that's to say, though, about, well, Callan said that without having the top 4 teams or a top 4 team in there, that's probably why. I just think everyone's trying to get used to this, which is why I am very much opposed, though I was opposing the 12-team expansion. But I also want this to at least play out. I don't want them to go to 14 teams next season after 1 year of the 12-team format. At least give the diehard college football audience an opportunity to get adjusted, and don't change books on them in a hurry after 1 season. Now, ESPN might be maybe in a way like, us not having Oregon will probably hurt. Not having Texas or Georgia or a big name, brand being a mistake. Now, yes, you have big brands, though. Don't get me wrong. You've got The Ohio State University, and you got a pretty interesting, intriguing Notre Dame club as well playing in the CFP final next week. But I am not ready, though I know that I'm not a big college football fan, or was against the expansion of the tournament. This cannot be a one-and-done situation. This absolutely cannot be one and done. Because I think that with what we have right now, I should say, ESPN gives TNT and Turner Sports a bone by giving them, I think, 1 or 2 of the first games that were played for the play into the actual next round, the quarterfinal round, which went from the 12 to 8 teams. So there's money involved there with Turner, and then money involved with ESPN. But I also think, for the fact of now that we have this going a little bit longer, might be in a way burning some fans out. But I still, though, will say, let's calm the waters here and let this just play out. So, okay, this year we know the top 4 seeds got knocked out. So what will next year say? What will the next year say? The next year, like, in a way, patience is a virtue, is of the virtue, I think, here. And even though, 17% dip, though, for college football, I don't think it's as drastic as the 10% dip I kind of ranted about with the NBA, where they had a major surge of 84% of TV viewership on Christmas Day. And then, of course, the OKC Cleveland game drew a big crowd as well for the NBA on ESPN. But I think there's a lot of factors here. This might be, folks, not the one time, but this is a time, though, where I won't rail against the college expansion. I will just say we have to let this play out. Again, that's coming from someone, folks, who does not really enjoy or really watch a lot of Americanized football, though I do enjoy college football. I just don't want this to become a thing where it changes every year. This is similar to this. I don't want the CFP, folks, to be like the NFL playoffs, where every year it seems like teams are putting in rule changes to tweak the playoff format for the NFL. Let's not do that in college football. Though I know I said, well, hey, Oregon lost because they had a 3-week break, calling an excuse. I think at this rate, with when you're debuting something new, I think you'll take the hits and the misses. I think you'll take the 17% dip in the playoff semifinals, because maybe you're saying, well, the top 4 seeds got knocked out. Yeah, Penn State, Notre Dame, big deal. Ohio State, Texas. Okay, I can understand that, because mainly of what I would probably say in a regular bracket, well, we didn't have the number 1 team get in. The number 2 team didn't make it in. 3 and 4 didn't make it. 5 got in, but not quite. So I will say, I think I will take the dip in ratings because, again, this is all brand spanking new. So I think it'll take time to adjust if you're a college football fan to the format. I know James and I talked at length, though, on Monday about it's so confusing, though. You know, the AP top 25 doesn't mean a damn thing now because we have another ranking system done by the committee to rank the top 12 teams. I know there's, a lot of, weird things like, well, you have to be, it's only the top 5 teams. The 5 best conference champions get the top 5 seeds. And if you're the 5 seed like Texas was, you get a home game against the 12th seeded team, which was Clemson. So I think, though, that tweaks do have to be made, as Gonzalez and I talked about on Monday, where you may have to go to a different sort of ranking system for the bracket. Maybe you go away from 5 and 7 and make it even Steven 6 and 6, not 5 and 7, where it's, the 5 best conference champs and then 7 at-large bids. Maybe you make it fair, the 6 best conference champions and then 6 at-large bids. But let's let this play out before we go to either shrink it back to 10 or, as James wants, an 18 bracket, we go beyond 12 to go to 16. The minimum should be at least 3 years. The maximum 5 years, then you can say that you can make changes. But at least for year one, I think you would probably take those swords in the back of maybe a dip in ratings when it comes to the semifinals. Again, we can probably call it for what it was, though. Again, top 4 seeds were all knocked out, and they're in the quarterfinals. Maybe it was other stuff on TV that maybe people were enjoying. Or was it the fact that both games were on separate days? We had standalone games for the semifinal game on Friday, I think, and then we had the other game on Saturday, or it was Thursday and Friday. Did that maybe, in a way, water it down a little bit? I don't know, honestly. But I do think, though, that if you're the committee, if you are ESPN, I think you will probably take that little bit of like a little small decline in ratings because everyone knows this is uncharted territory for college football. And I mean all this, folks, in a good way. I know that you all know that I do not like the American football product. But again, viewing it, though, from the perspective of like from the business model, I think you would expect and you would probably take those losses because this is all brand new that we're rolling out here. Again, I want to give this a chance. I don't want to go to 16 teams next year. I don't want to go back to 10 or 8 next year. I want those of you who love college football, you live and die with the sport in general, across college and the NFL, I want you to be able to enjoy it, to enjoy what we have right now. Then if more and more teams like Oregon, for example, lose in round 1, maybe we start going back to the drawing board. But there has to be a minimum timeline that you make this like 3 years minimum before you go back and say, great success. Now we're going to expand the field. Bad idea. We'll shrink the field back to 8. We're down to 10. But you got to give this a chance. And I am all for giving it a chance. Again, though I usually say, like I have a lot in the segment, I don't really care for American football. But I am willing to give this a chance. Though I am also not against was not against expanding the field for college football because, as James alludes to in the chat box, the CFP needed Bama for bigger ratings. I think, James, this is like I said on Monday, though I know they lost 3 games, I think they had to have another big name in there. Though I enjoyed seeing Boise State make it, and ASU make it, and SMU make it, I still think, James, that there needs to be tweaks. That tweaks will have to be made, though, big game, James, as time goes on. Just for the fact of like a brand name like Alabama football not being in the first ever 12-team playoff, even with the 3 losses, I think you would probably could have put them in there as a 12 seed. Though I know Clemson ended up winning the ACC, but again, they were the lowest ranked conference champion that was left in the 12-team field, and they got blown out by Texas. So I think, James, that more than anything else, though, the bracket format for seeding needs to be addressed. Where I think you have to go back to plan A before when this was first rolled out. I'm going to a 6-6 format and not going 5-7, because that in a way just gives one kind of inferior team like Clemson a shot to getting in when they probably should not have been there in the first place, if you kind of catch my drift. But I do think, though, that though we can probably be a little bit concerned about the dip in ratings for the CFP semifinals, it's year one. And even as the biggest person on here who does not like football, if I'm even saying that you have to give us a chance, I think you should give it a chance. And I think that's where we are at right now at this point in time, after what's right now, I think, been still a very great college football playoff. Blowouts are one thing. Mistargeting calls are one thing. But I don't think it's really that much of a attack pattern delta or DEFCON 1 sound the alarm, call Scotland Yard moment for the CFP yet. But I do think that some things, though, do have to be tweaked. But that's for like a couple years down the road, not in 2026 or even in 2025. Well, now, folks, move over to another big story going on in the world of media. But DirecTV on Tuesday officially launched DirecTV My Sports, a brand new skinny sports bundle of channels aimed at people who want to watch live sports without paying for a broader TV package. The package will include 40 sports and broadcast channels and is currently available in 24 metro areas, including New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Philadelphia, and the San Francisco Bay Area. The My Sports package is also priced well under DirecTV's entertainment and sports package entry-level streaming package, which goes for roughly $101 or $102 a month. DirecTV secured distribution rights for the My Sports channels through agreements with media companies like Disney, Fox, the Fox Corps, Warner Brothers Discovery, and also NBC Universal. The package will also include networks from each of the major U.S. sports leagues and also major collegiate conferences as well. As I usually say, folks, we are entering a very interesting and right now different time in sports media when it comes to how we consume our content on television. You know, radio's not going away anytime soon, though I know a lot of teams have jumped off of the terrestrial radio in favor of like iHeartRadio for streaming or other avenues like that, or like Mixler or other online radio platforms. But again, I do think, though, that the boom of streaming really, I think, now has new life now that DirecTV has added this on. This, I think, folks, was also in wake of a announcement I heard that Venue Sports, which was, I believe, a mega merger in a way of ESPN, Fox, and I believe NBC and other sports programs were going to go onto one giant app, and it got shot down pretty quickly. But also, DirecTV now, I think, has a way where you can actually watch DirecTV without having to have a satellite dish on your house. And I always think back, though, too, folks, whenever I think about that the NFL has their one-off on Peacock, they had their one-off on Prime Video this past week, I still kind of die on that hill from, I believe, last NFL playoffs season when I said, okay, say that the Chiefs and Dolphins, as they did last year, played on Peacock. What does that do, though, for a Kansas City Chiefs fan bar in suburban San Diego County, or a Dolphins bar somewhere on the outskirts of Kissimmee, Florida? If the bar does not have Peacock, then that pocket of fans of the NFL franchises playing in the playoffs lose out on money. That's where I still think, though, that we're kind of a long ways away, I feel like, from like all this being worked out, though, where it will work properly. But this kind of feels like it's right down any sports fan's alley. You get 40 stations of just pure sports content, and it's well under about $102 a month, which what it would cost you for the entry level for DirecTV. But also having the deals in place with ESPN and Disney, with Fox, with Warner Brothers Discovery, and then with NBC, that is very pivotal, because that will include all the, you know, as it mentions, all the major U.S. sports leagues and the major college conferences. But I still think we're a long ways away, everybody, from everything going to streaming platforms. And I usually say that a lot when I talk about media deals like this being in place. But I do feel like we're a long ways away from it. Just of like, we could see what we want about Roger Goodell saying, hey, as long as I'm commissioner, there's never going to be a Super Bowl on Peacock or on streaming platforms. It would probably take the whole entire country to take a pair of scissors and cut that cable and go to streaming platforms. I mean, even though that they promise like $5.99 a month on Peacock for, with ads and stuff, I think, though, like I usually say, though, if you have to keep adding more and more platforms, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, Max, DirecTV, My Sports, for example, MLS Season Pass, that does add up like any other cable bill you probably would have through Spectrum in Southern California or Xfinity or Comcast. So I still think that we're a long ways away, though, folks, from like everything jumping to streaming platforms, though I think more and more content is being put out onto the platforms. Again, like I usually use me and my folks as me and my parents as an example. We've got Peacock, we have Netflix, we have Prime Video, we have Victory Plus to watch the Ducks hockey games in Southern California on local TV since they jumped off of FanDuel Sports West in SoCal. But having this, though, I think is a great avenue to let DirecTV kind of start going down that rabbit hole, or at least getting that path established to get people to jump onto their services. Though it's still like half the price, so I think it goes for like $60 a month, I want to say, for those 40 stations. Even then, it's almost like even then, okay, I pay $60 a month to get 40 sports stations. I still can't watch my hockey team play. The best part, though, Victory Plus is free of charge. But that was even like today. My dad and I were flipping channels, and he said, "Hey, aren't the Ducks on Victory Plus?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I got to turn the Apple TV on." And I know that you like to flip stations to go from bitchin' rides on Motor Trend back to ESPN for basketball. We actually watched the TGL tonight on ESPN that saw Tiger Woods make his league debut in his brand new virtual like mixed reality golf league tonight on ESPN. But it's kind of like, the hassle of going from the cable box to the Apple TV, put the Victory Plus app on, sit through the game, watch the Ducks play against the Capitals, for example, and then have to go back to cable TV. But I do think, though, that we're still a long ways away, though, as I've been saying, though, from seeing a lot of other leagues going the route of moving off of cable, just for the fact of the demand still being there for cable companies and stuff like that. But I like, though, DirecTV's ambition, though, to launch this package again for, I think, half of the cost of the entry-level package deal. 40 sports stations and broadcast channels based right now in 24 metro areas before it eventually grows to more and more areas at this time. But I still think that we are right now just kind of in a way still like a mixed bag. I know that the NBA, as I will mention later on in the show, it's going to be ESPN, NBC, and now Amazon Prime Video. As if football fans already have Amazon Prime Video. WWE fans having Netflix, for example, right? Or at one point you had Peacock to watch all the programs on demand or on streaming. But I'm eager, though, to see, though, which company follows suit next and begins offering more of this pretty soon. I think my major ploy would be, though, if in fact DirecTV launching this, okay, the 40 stations is cool, but I better damn well have my local sports stations or local RSNs like Spectrum Sportsnet for Laker basketball, FanDuel West and FanDuel SoCal for Kings and for Kings hockey and Clippers basketball. Like, I better have those in that package, or I'm not going to buy it. That'd be my only ploy here, especially in New York and in those areas. Okay, I better have the Warriors and Kings games on this package. I better have access to Dodger games when the baseball season rolls around. That'd be my only hinge or my only concern, is that it's 40 stations, but it's all like the national stuff. And local programming better be at the heart, though, of that package deal if, in fact, anyone does, in fact, fork out the money to buy it. But it's definitely a good starting point, though. And I'm sure, though, now AT&T will go this route, Charter Spectrum, Comcast, Xfinity, you name it, that they'll now kind of, in a way, kind of ride the coattails of DirecTV now to launch this new program and new bundle pretty soon. I think, though, again, it's just another cord-cutting measure to get people to stop buying cable and now just stream everything instead on TV at this rate. Moving folks over now to a very interesting development that happened earlier in the week on Sunday and on Monday. But the NBA's Philadelphia 76ers, folks, announced a new arena plan and reversed their course in partnership with their owner, Comcast, which will house both the Sixers and the NHL's Philadelphia Flyers. This change, though, as you might recall me talking about this a while back, comes after a previous $1.3 billion plan for a new arena in downtown Philadelphia faced major controversy and backlash and city council approval. Both sides insist this new agreement, seen as a compromise, is beneficial for the whole city. Key points include a joint venue benefiting from shared revenue opportunities linked to non-game day events, naming right deals for Comcast with worth at least $25 million to $35 million annually, and Comcast becoming a minority owner in the 76ers. The plan also will try to boost and bolster the city's bid for a WNBA expansion franchise. Despite past tensions, the partnership now appears collaborative, with leaders expressing a positive outlook for the project and for the future, with Sixers co-owner Josh Harris saying on Monday via press conference, quote, the journey to the best solution is not always a straight line, but I am certain that today we have found an incredibly positive solution for Philly. Now it's time to get to work, open and close quote. This, folks, was a very controversial and very combative and very much out of control story that I broke a few months ago here on Press Row. The Sixers vowed to leave the South Philadelphia sports complex, which is shared by the Sixers, the Flyers, the Wings, the Eagles, and the Phillies, with all the venues being on the same property in downtown Philadelphia. And they were going to be on their way out of town, the 76 Marketplace in Chinatown in Philadelphia, and building a brand new $1.3 billion arena. That was met from the get-go with protests from the local Asian American community, very much tense and heated and very out of control town hall meetings that saw people getting kicked out forcibly out of the meetings to oppose the project. And now it seems like, though, folks, the Sixers came to the realization, well, if we're going to be leaving this complex and being outsiders, we should probably do what's best for the city and stay where we're at. But as I also maybe said, though, a while back when we were talking about this whole fray, the Sixers in the arena were at a very, very, very tense, very out of control, very public breakup almost, when the Sixers at one point shrunk the size of the Wells Fargo Center logo in their two spots on the court where it wasn't even visible. They literally did not mention the name of the arena. They were that upset with the arena at that time, or they said, we're going to move out of here. But I do think, though, that Josh Harris probably saw, though, the public outcry of what has been going on and had gone on with this arena, with this project in general, came to the realization this is not a good idea. But now, in a way, though, this is a very good compromise, though, but also a very much a 180. But I see a lot of great benefits here. First and foremost is location. The Sixers and Flyers will stay put at the complex currently, and then when they move to the new arena, eventually by 2031. So that's good, I think, for Philly sports fans who go to the same place over and over. Eagle games, Philly games, Sixers games, Flyer games, and Wings games, they're all right there. They're all right there. The Bank, the Link, and Wells Fargo Center are all right there. That's the first big point. The main one, I think the second point that is huge, Comcast now acquires ownership stake of the Sixers. They already do that right now with the Flyers. So that's also one thing as well. Thirdly, shared revenue from anything that's not a Flyers, Sixers, or Wings home game. Now they're making money off of concerts, WWE, MMA, the UFC, other events that will come to town. Now that money goes directly to the Sixers and the Flyers. Comcast, again, gets the ownership stake of the franchise with the Sixers, but now get to name the arena after themselves. $25, $35 million annually more moolah for Comcast. Moolah for the Flyers and for the Sixers. Now, the only problem, I think the only hurdle here would be about WNBA expansion. This upcoming summer will mark the first season that we will see a expansion team play, I believe, in the league since 2008, maybe 2009. And that will be the Golden State Valkyries playing up at Chase Center in San Francisco, California. Then next season, we'll be having the Toronto Tempo playing home games at Coca-Cola Coliseum in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And there's been other link cities already in place. But like I said, though, I think in the first time we talked about this ongoing situation, will this be a bargaining chip to lure the GOAT Don Staley out of South Carolina to come coach the WNBA franchise in her hometown of Philadelphia? I don't see it happening still. Especially about 6 years down the line, though, when the new arena gets opened up in 2031. Though I think Dawn would become a part owner of the franchise, I don't see her becoming the head coach of that team because of what she's done at South Carolina. Yes, never say never because of Bill Belichick never coaching college and then now going to coach at UNC. But that is a very good bargaining chip, but I don't think Philly right now is in the top upper echelon or on the top of the food chain when it comes to expansion markets, though, for the WNBA. I've heard of Nashville and Cleveland. Austin, Texas is now on the radar for a franchise. Philly is probably still in the top, I'd say 5 or top 10. But I think that's still a distant shot right now. But I think, though, this was also all done in good faith. I don't think the Sixers really intended on, obviously, moving to a new arena is one thing, though, in the city. But I don't think they wanted to cause so much negativity and controversy in their city. Again, a lot of blowback and pushback and backlash, going into the spot of Philadelphia, very big with Asian American residents. The town hall meetings being very, very tense. People interrupting it, shouting, please don't do this, interrupting it, being kicked out, having to, forcibly being removed from the chambers. That this was probably the best way for the Sixers to maybe get back in good graces with some of the fan base. And like I said, though, especially if they would have left that complex, you would have had the Flyers, the Wings, the Phillies, and the Eagles being there, and then the Sixers are all by their lonesomes in downtown. And I think, though, that Josh Harris is so right, though, that the journey to the best solution doesn't always go in a straight line, and it doesn't. Success is, I think success and the journey to success is very much peaks and valleys, ups and downs. And I think he's right, though, that they found a very good solution to a problem that I don't think they wanted it to be a problem, but it became a problem. And now I got to get to work and get this thing going, get the ball rolling, and start getting people on board and begin to lay out lay the foundation, on paper, on computers, and then eventually putting shovels in the ground to make this arena project come to life eventually here very soon. But I see, though, that I think that this is going to do wonders. But I kind of still feel like, though, that the WNBA going to Philly is a little bit far-fetched, I think. Just that other markets already have the proverbial ducks in the row. Nashville, Cleveland, maybe Louisville, maybe another market like Milwaukee perhaps has a chance. Texas somewhere, maybe Florida again comes back to the forefront. But I like, though, how the Sixers kind of in a way saw the harm that was being done, and they came back to the table and said, no, you know what we're going to do? Scrap that project. We're building it right here where we belong. And that's within where the Eagles play, the Wings, the Sixers, the Flyers, the Phillies. We all deserve to be here, and we're going to reverse course and stay where we're at right now. I think that was a very, very huge thing for the Sixers organization to, in fact, do. Over, folks, now in the NHL, the National Hockey League will be now plans officially next season to have 2 outdoor games in Florida, marking a huge and significant change for the league. The NHL Winter Classic will take place at Miami's Lone Depot Park, featuring the Florida Panthers and the New York Rangers, while the Stadium Series game will feature the Lightning and Bruins at Raymond James Stadium. Though the league has held outdoor games in warmer areas beforehand, this is the first time it has chosen Florida for such outdoor events. To manage the warm climate, the league will build a temporary climate-controlled structure for the rink at Raymond James Stadium, while the roof at Lone Depot Park will be closed during the construction of the rink, ensuring that both games can occur outdoors even with Florida's hot temperatures. The league, though, moving these games to Florida next season will aim to support the growing interest in the sport of hockey, with youth signups for the sport rising by 212% since 1999. Local leaders have also been pushing for the outdoor games after hosting the All-Star Game in Tampa in 2018. The Winter Classic will take place January 2nd of next year, and the game in Tampa will take place on February 1st, and both games will be held in the evening on those 2 dates. Though recent ratings for winter games were very low, 1.1 last season to a very staggering 920,000 people this season, the league remains optimistic about the upcoming Florida events coming next season. Literally, folks, I said last night, I said this on my last show of 2024 on Press Row, and my concerns came to the forefront when I read that this year's Winter Classic, St. Louis, Chicago at Wrigley Field, a blowout win for St. Louis over a team like Chicago who blew out their head coach the week prior, only brought in 920,000 people on TNT. That, folks, went back to the point I told James on Monday, and I said here pretty loudly last Press Row episode. This is what happens when you keep going to the well and you keep regurgitating and keep pulling the same teams out of the hat. The Blues and Blackhawks did not move the needle for me, sadly. And the main reason why I think so, and I still live by this, and I told this to James on Monday, it was the fact that the Winter Classic was not a standalone event. You had everybody else playing games that day, and this game got lost in the shuffle with other NHL games, NBA games, and, of course, the college football playoff. And also, when you repeat a old matchup that's already been played within the last couple of years, I think, as mentioned, I believe that the Blues and Blackhawks played fairly recently in St. Louis. That's just shooting yourself in the foot. I know the Blackhawks made a boatload of money and a lot of cachet off of all the Connor Bedard jerseys that got sold around Wrigleyville and at Wrigley Field during the days leading up to and at the game. But come on, NHL. The Blackhawks have still not won an outdoor game in franchise history in the last couple years. I think they're over. That should be a telling sign to Commissioner Bettman and Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley. New theory. Don't put the Blackhawks in an outdoor game again. Because sadly, that number on screen in the last bullet point reads it very well. Only 920,000 people enjoyed watching St. Louis and Chicago for the third time or second time or third time in recent memory. And I, clear as day, said on Press Row last show in December, If you want these outdoor games to mean something for hockey fans out there, you need to think outside the penalty box. And the league finally listened to Mr. McClurg. I know, though, that we can have our concerns. Are we sure, though, about going to a warm weather city or state? Because we're talking about a hockey game being played on a sheet of frozen water, a.k.a. ice. Will this actually work in Florida? If I have to keep reminding everybody about the 2014 Stadium Series game at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, California, I will do so. Because they have the same concerns about that game in 2014, and the game was perfectly well done. The league took every precaution possible to keep the ice from melting in the burning hot California sun. They already listed it in plain writing. The league already will be putting in a temporary climate-controlled structure of some type to build the rink at Ray J. And at Lone Depot Park, the roof is going to be closed when they build the rink. The league, by the way, has freezer trucks that they can bring in to keep the ice cool and cold, as was the case in 2014 in Los Angeles. The league also went and played a game at Levi Stadium in Northern California. Went off without a hitch. Same in Los Angeles. Same at the Cotton Bowl in Arlington, Texas. So again, we don't have to keep recycling and keep regurgitating a cold weather city for every outdoor game. 2014 proved to you that you can make this work in a warm weather climate like in Southern California or even now in Florida. And I do think people will enjoy this. Though I know some fans have, said their piece like, why do you have to bring Boston and New York into these games? Why couldn't it just be Tampa and Florida both games? A home and home. I have no problem with it, honestly. Because, again, let's just kind of think about this real quick. The Panthers playing in Miami, hosting the New York Rangers. The 2003 World Series, the Yankees playing the Marlins. Tampa Bay playing Boston. Tom Brady playing for both those teams at one point in time in New England and in Tampa. But I also think bullet point 3 is such a great thing, though. The 3 words I've lived by in 17 years working in hockey, the junior level, the pro level, the minor league level, especially here in Southern California, grow the game. And that's why I devote a lot of my time over my summer, as I did this past year, to the San Diego Elite Draft League and to the classy San Diego Charity Hockey Tournament. That's part of growing the game in California. And for the fact, though, with a state like California, where it doesn't snow, hardly rains, believe it or not, sadly. And yes, the sun is out 300 days out of the year, though. It's still a state with 3 NHL franchises, 5 AHL franchises, and 3 Stanley Cups in the trophy case. The state of Florida is in a similar boat. Warm climate, Stanley Cup titles are in the trophy case. All I have to say is that line. Grow the game. Florida youth hockey registrations have risen by 212% since 1999, nearly over a quarter century ago. That should tell you something. That when you grow the game, stuff like this happens. You get rewarded with 2 teams who've won Stanley Cup championships, and you get to have the NHL world come to you for outdoor games coming up in a year. This is how the NHL grows their product. That doesn't mean you have to always incorporate the Blackhawks into the Winter Classic or the Blues every year, especially when both teams are not really there. Like I said, I was not sold on a Chicago team who was at the time the second worst team in the Western Conference, blowing out Luke Richardson, their head coach. Or on a Blues team with veteran leadership, though, but they blew out Drew Bannister for a recently fired Jim Montgomery. And the scoreboard didn't lie. St. Louis 6, Chicago 2, with the big fat F next to it for final score. Again, 920,000 people tuned in. That is 180,000 people less than when Vegas played Seattle at T-Mobile Park in Seattle, Washington last season. Now, I don't believe at all for a bit that it's the fact that there's 2 outdoor games now. My main selling point, the game has to be accessible on television, for one thing, and it has to be an SEA or SAE, stand-alone event. It's the only game the NHL plays. Because you can't make it work, I think, when you have teams playing around before and after the Winter Classic or the Stadium Series game. You lose a lot of your diehard fan interests, like me, because my team played right around after the Winter Classic game ended. The outdoor games need to be SAEs, standalone events. No other games get played except for that game and that game only. Because that will bring every hockey fan in to watch the game outdoors. But I'm very happy, though, that a new market gets a chance now to host these 2 games down in Florida next season. But this is how it needs to be right here. Folks, please don't get me wrong. I don't mind Boston hosting, New York hosting, or Chicago hosting, or Detroit hosting. I just think, though, that when you have, 26 other markets out there that aren't the original 6, you need to cater to them. It's as simple as that. That's how you get eyeballs on this sport. I get the nostalgia. I get the heritage of the original 6 teams. Like the Bruins playing at Fenway or the Rangers playing at Yankee Stadium. The Red Wings playing at Ford Field or at Comerica Park, or the Cubs or the Blackhawks playing at Wrigley Field. It's just so stale, sadly. And I think the viewership numbers don't lie when it's only 920,000 people. Like I said, that's 180,000 other hockey fans who said, I don't want to watch this year, comparing last year's game to this year's game. And like I said on Press Run, like I said on Monday, this is how you actually get fans behind your league. This is how you get people to get behind the sport, by going to a market like Florida. I mean, I know that the weather can be a factor, folks, but it's not that big of a deal. Like I said, the NHL already pulled off games in a warm climate like in SoCal and NorCal. They even pulled off games at Lake Tahoe on during the COVID pandemic. Even though the games were eventually moved to the evening because of the sun and the ice quality in Tahoe. Even then, they still pulled off a ice hockey game in a warm weather area. And this will only help further boost Florida hockey going forward. Not just with the Cats and with the Lightning, but that number, though, of 212% increase in youth hockey signups dating back to 99, that's going to keep going up. Especially when 2 teams in the same proximity of each other are right now consistent winners more than anything else. We, folks, now segue and move on to Kevin Harlan, the longtime play-by-play announcer for multiple outlets, is now in deep talks with Amazon Prime Video to join the NBA's growing roster of talent. Kevin has been calling the NBA for TNT for nearly 30 years and has also done the NFL on CBS, the NCAA tournament for CBS and Turner, and also Monday Night Football on the radio for Westwood One. A deal with Amazon has not been finalized, but sources do say that Harlan and Amazon are close to a deal as of Tuesday evening. The NBA will be departing its longtime partners of TNT next season in favor of ESPN, Amazon Prime, and NBC. Amazon is expected right now to tap Ian Eagle as their top play-by-play announcer, with Taylor Rooks, Dirk Nowitzki, and Blake Griffin joining the studio team, and also Carmelo Anthony is also in play for either NBC or for Amazon Prime. Both ESPN, ABC, NBC, and Amazon signed a lucrative $77 billion deal for the next 11 seasons to carry the NBA on their platforms. Amazon Prime has been my main concern about this new media deal for the NBA going to these new platforms next season. I'm not really worried about NBC because they already had the NBA back in 2002 for a long time through the 90s and the 2000s. But I'm more interested, though, about Amazon Prime Video. Just for the fact, though, of like this now, again, kind of feels like Al Michaels leaving to go to Prime with Kirk Herbstreit. And I think, though, if you have your foundation, though, for Amazon Prime to be both Ian Eagle and Kevin Harlan, that's a formidable 1-2 combo for Prime Video for basketball next season. I will be eager, though, to see, though, if anyone else from Turner does jump ship if they become free agents. I know that right now there's been the talks about Shaq and Kenny and Chuck going to taking Inside the NBA to ESPN. I'm a little bit hesitant to really fully buy in for that show because I know that ESPN will wreck it by putting Stephen A. Smith on that talk show like they usually do with everything else. And then I do know that I believe NBC has tapped Mike Tirico and Ian Eagle's son Noah to be their first two announcers, I believe, for NBC. But I will be intrigued, though, to see what more Amazon does. I do like, though, of having, again, like I said, though, last night, I love the player perspective. And I don't know if James would agree, though, but I feel like, though, that guys like Dirk and Blake Griffin and Carmelo Anthony, that's a pretty good starting point to kind of, again, bring some new faces who know about where the game's at now, as opposed to what we talked about on the off-the-board topic on the show on Monday about how Chuck, Kenny, and Shaq are cut from a different cloth of NBA lore and history, that maybe now Dirk, Blake, maybe Carmelo can bring a new perspective of how the game's being played now to the audiences, though, on Prime Video. But I do think Amazon Prime has their work cut out for them as this season does prolong into for next season. I do think NBC will be fine, though. I'll be intrigued, though, to see, though, if they get any big name personalities to come to their side of things, though, when it comes to their studio teams and stuff like that. But Kevin Harlan, though, and Ian Eagle, that is a pretty good starting point for Amazon. Mike Tirico is a great pick, though, for NBC with what he's done, though, with the Big Ten Network, with NBC's golf coverage. I'd love to see some of the some NBC Olympic announcers like Don Hicks come back to doing basketball. Would they even maybe tap some Fox announcers like John Fanta, for example? Maybe, perhaps. I know he's more of a college guy. But I think, though, that Amazon Prime, though, has more work cut out for them, mainly more than I think does NBC. Because NBC already had the relationship, though, with the NBA. They could probably tap some old friends to come on for some sporadic appearances, though. But Kevin Harlan, though, folks, has been tapped right now alongside Ian Eagle to perhaps be the first two announcers hired, possibly, by what will be the NBA on Amazon Prime Video come next basketball season. Going to be very intriguing to see, though, how that does, in fact, play out. We now, folks, move on to the final topics here, which is the press clippings. Our three stories, though, that are burning in sports we cannot talk about, I should say, in full entirety here this evening. Up first, folks, is a very big right now, perhaps game-changing soccer lawsuit. But the North American Soccer League, better known as the NASL, is now facing antitrust lawsuit trials against the U.S. Soccer Federation and by Major League Soccer over alleged conspiracies to prevent it from competing with Major League Soccer head-on. The lawsuit, as it states right now, alleges that MLS and the U.S. Soccer Federation conspired to prevent and stop the NASL from renewing their Division II status when it did dissolve operation in 2018. Sadly, folks, Major League Soccer, though it's coming here in San Diego in about a month or so, there have been some potholes recently, although we can really, I can gloat here about a team in San Diego. Lionel Messi coming here is the best thing ever for the league since David Beckham came here in 2007. But there are, though, a couple of big hurdles right now that is facing Major League Soccer. The first one being the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. His son, Lamar Jr., I believe, is supposed to be testifying alongside Don Garber at this antitrust lawsuit. From what I've been gathering, and the Hunt family is at kind of the centerpiece of this whole thing. But the U.S. Open Cup, though, folks, is kind of at a crossroads. Major League Soccer, kind of in a way, told U.S. Soccer, take a hike. We don't need you anymore like we used to back in the day. So teams who play in the Open Cup will not play the top team of the MLS franchises. They can play our Division II teams. And there was a major mutiny across the entire fan base last season. But now, though, this is very interesting, folks. The NASL was the first true chance, or first try, I should say, at a major soccer league in North America. That was a league that was, that had the New York Cosmos when Pele played for them. And the Sockers, the LA Aztecs, the Golden Bay Earthquakes, the Portland Timbers, the Vancouver Whitecaps, the Las Vegas Americans at one point. Teams in Texas and Florida, Minnesota, you name it. But now, though, the dissolution of the NASL, though, in 2018, and then the formation and rise of the USL, which was where San Diego Loyal played their matches for 3 years here in San Diego, serving as like a de facto AAA soccer league, basically. This could have some repercussions. Now, I don't really think, though, that the NASL was trying to compete head-on with Major League Soccer. I really don't buy that one bit, one iota. But this will be interesting, though, to see, though, what happens, because I think this really could shake up could really shake up American soccer. With which league will it be? I still think though, that MLS has the leg here because it was formed, and in a way, it was a bargaining chip, believe it or not, for the World Cup to come here in 1994. FIFA said you have to create a soccer league for America to be able to host the World Cup. So I really don't buy the theory or the notion that that MLS and the Soccer Federation conspired somehow to keep the NASL out of business. I think I'd be more upset, though, about what was talked about, that MLS did not want their, at the time, 29 clubs playing in the Open Cup. That made no sense to me whatsoever. I know that the prestige behind the Open Cup is not what it used to be back in the early days of MLS. It's still a damn trophy to play for. Yes, we can complain about the calendar and the length of, and the scheduling of matches. It still is a big part of American soccer history. It's been going on for over 100 years. So we'll keep an eye on that lawsuit, folks, and we'll see what we can bring out of it next time we come at you here on Press Row. Next one, folks, the Professional Women's Hockey League is currently right now on their takeover tour of right now 9 different NHL and different arenas around town, away from their current away from the current markets of the 6 current franchises. And fans broke a record for the tour date in Denver this past weekend of over 14,000 fans showing up to watch a PWHL game this past week. And the league is right now set to expand to from 6 to 8 teams coming up in the 25-26 seasons, and also more games are planned in Quebec City, Quebec, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, Buffalo, New York, Raleigh, North Carolina, Detroit, Michigan, and also St. Louis, Missouri. Again, folks, I have loved being in this women's sports era right now. USA women's soccer dominating and winning over in Paris with the gold medal. USA Rugby, the women, Ilana Maurer and her team winning bronze in great fashion. USA Gymnastics, USA Swimming, the WNBA, and now the PWHL, the NWSL. I'll say it again. There is no better time right now to be a women's sports fan. And, folks, the PWHL, and again, I think the PWHL has done a great job and has done wonders so far with what they've done with this takeover tour. Having gone to Denver, for example, and having games lined up in Quebec, in Edmonton, Buffalo, Raleigh, Detroit, and St. Louis. Again, just the very, 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 very small gripe. It's still very small. It's about going to more non-traditional hockey markets like in California. That's like it. You know, I really think, though, that eventually that they're going to come to NorCal, SoCal, Vegas, or Arizona pretty soon. But I really, folks, just love, though, how this league is doing their business, along with the WNBA and with the NWSL. And I think the tour dates, folks, are such a great thing for the sport, exposing fans to the women's brand of hockey, to big names like Hillary Knight, my go-to girl, Haley Skamura, Victoria Bach, Marie-Philippe Poulin, Taylor Heisey, Brooke Bryant, who's a SoCal native, Kayla Barnes, SoCal native. I have really just thoroughly enjoyed seeing these games and then see them go to a neutral site like Ball Arena. And I also love, though, how the NHL players have really backed this league. Cale Makar from the Avalanche and his wife came to the game in Denver. Other players have worn the jerseys of the teams in as their walk-ins. It's so cool, folks, seeing, you know, people rally around this league and get behind it. But again, just my very small, teeny tiny little gripe, though, is though I understand, though, Quebec, Edmonton, Buffalo, going to Raleigh, Detroit, St. Louis, I get that. A lot of those markets are traditional hockey markets or cold weather cities, though. Hey, like I've said, I've been to 2 games in Southern California, in Anaheim and in Los Angeles. And the crowds spoke for themselves, though. And I think eventually that they're going to come out here. And again, I do think, though, with Mark Walter being part of the Dodger ownership group and also the LA Sparks ownership group, I expect there to be an LA franchise. Though I've heard other cities have been mentioned, though, I do think, though, if Mark Walter has his name on the playoffs and the trophy, I kind of think we can probably shoe in a team in LA pretty soon. But I, folks, really just have enjoyed seeing this league grow, because I kind of think that we kind of expected maybe like a sophomore slump in year 2. But I don't see that, though. I don't see that at all right now here in year 2, especially if we're setting records again. Like I said last time, you know, every time that there was a game last season, every game kept one-upping each other. Every market one-upped each other every single game day. It was so much fun to see. So this has been very cool to see, though, that the PWHL is really, again, taking off here so well here in year 2. Finally, folks, in kind of a unprecedented move, but probably not, but not really a move of surprise. But the Colorado Buffaloes have officially ended their partnership with their official NIL collective group, the 5430 Alliance, as it prepares right now for the impact of an upcoming House versus NC2A settlement. The settlement will allow schools to pay athletes directly up to $22 million annually through revenue sharing. Athletes will still be able to make money from NIL deals, and schools could also choose to keep working with the collective to help facilitate funds beyond that amount. Players will also still be able to, and players will be able to be paid directly by the university as well. Again, folks, new chapter. And I think I saw a tease of this, though, when Coach Prime was in his meeting hall and laying out the groundwork for next season. You know, can I also, in a way, kind of declare victory? I recall when Dion first got the job, and it was me and Brandon and Chris on a program, I think, and we had a kind of a snorty viewer write in and say, is it really a turnaround for Colorado when they go 4-8 for Dion, regardless if it's year one or not? And I said pretty plain as day, hey, 4 wins is greater than 1. So it's a turnaround. This season proved it was a turnaround. You know, folks, for all the hate and flack that gets sent Coach Prime's way, I think he's shut a lot of you people up. Going to Boulder, Colorado, and restoring faith in a once proud college football city when the Buffaloes were at their apex in the 90s. Again, turning around the team that went from 1 win to 4 wins to, I think, a 10-win season and a bowl game appearance. Is it not a turnaround? I think it's a turnaround. Again, for all the flack, all the hate, all of this and that, folks, after I saw the video of Dion, though, laying out the foundation for next season, about how his players will represent themselves and represent the football team on campus. Call it what you want, folks, but I really think, though, that this has worked out. Where now he says, no slides, no athletic gear, sit in the front of the class, and if we find you dicking around or screwing around, we're taking away your money. Now, the only concern, though, I would have, though, is not necessarily about Colorado's shuttering operation of the NIL collective, but about other programs who have to rely or now need the NIL collective now more than ever. Because of a settlement, that's one thing, though, but even then, as we have seen, though, folks, throughout this college bowl season, sadly, players opting out to not play, the out-of-control transfer portal being open while games are being played still, sadly, at this rate, that there are still a lot of hurdles in college athletics right now. Mainly the portal and mainly NIL money. And now, of course, this story coming out, though, well, hey, we're shutting down the NIL collective. I believe Notre Dame's also done so, as has Alabama, I think. I also believe Miami, Florida also shut down the NIL collective as well. But this will be a very interesting cascading or ripple effect, mainly across other schools in smaller conferences who don't have that money at their disposal, for example. Like schools in the WAC, the West Coast Conference, the Sun Belt, the Mountain West. You know, the Patriot League, the Summit League, the Missouri Valley League, for example. Especially, like, for example, at my university, we literally just launched our NIL program, I want to say, last year during fall sports. And now you kind of wonder, though, with all the money that has been put into the collectives, though, for Torero Athletics, though, what happens if they, in fact, shut it down? So, again, it'll be weird. It'll be interesting, folks, to see what comes out of it, though. But I think as more schools begin going down, stopping the collectives now, one wonders, though, if that was all for nothing. Because now the settlement, though, it's coming out, though, again, $22 million annually being paid to athletes through revenue sharing. This will be a very interesting tidbit, though, along with the portal being open still and all the other rules in place. But we'll see, though, what does come out of it as more time does go on. With that in mind, folks, glad to be back with you. Glad to be back with you here on our first program of the new year. We will, folks, see you again coming up in about 2 weeks' time. Again, we're trying to again reestablish a permanent date right now for Press Row due to some scheduling hurdles right now. I've also, as I said on Monday, been kind of getting over still being sick from the post-Christmas crud, basically. And again, folks, once more, like I said at the top of the show, but again, still our sincerest thoughts and prayers go to all of our friends, family, and neighbors affected by the ongoing fires up in Los Angeles County. Once more, again, if you'd like to help out, though, in some capacity for the victims of the fires, again, folks, you can do so online, redcross.org/donate, or call 1-800-RED-CROSS, 1-800-733-2767, or text the word CA Wildfires to 90999. Once more, redcross.org/donate, 1-800-RED-CROSS, 1-800-733-2767, or text CA Wildfires to 90999 to help out our friends, family, and those that, again, are, in fact, going through a very, very, very difficult time right now in Los Angeles County, folks. Until next time, folks, Callan McClurg saying good night or good day here from Southern California. We'll see you folks back here again 2 weeks' time, coming up on January 28th, back here at 10 o'clock Pacific time, right here on C2C, folks. Until next time, good night.